Hello, good afternoon. Shall I start? Okay. So, a very good afternoon to all of you. So, today in this session, what we are going to discuss is basically some practical problems, numerical problems basically. Whenever we are talking about application of many field, application of various film or membrane type technology in our various application sector. So then whatever theories and the calculations are involved to predict the permeability or predict the performance of the membrane. So we are going to look into some basic aspects of that in this session. Okay. So over here we are going to solve, or we are going to see a few situations which are very close to real life. So the first situation is giving us, telling us that you have to separate 4 kg per meter cube of a protein solution. So in the previous session we were talking about BSA filtration. So take an example of that we are filtering a BSA solution having a 4 kg per meter cube and you have 96% observed retention. Now they are saying that film theory is valid. Now what is film theory? Whenever we are having any porous membrane, then we in order to predict the flux, or in order to have an idea about what the flux is going to look like, for that we have a formula like given like this, that J is equal to K into ln into Cm minus Cp divided by C naught minus Cp. So this is the formula that is proven by equating the flux in and around, in and out of the membrane. Okay. So this J is the flux and K is the mass transfer coefficient. Cm is the membrane surface concentration. So whenever we are having a membrane filtration, some component is being rejected by the membrane. Some component is being rejected by the membrane and without PowerPoint. Yeah, so actually that might be a better solution, obviously. So if we have a rejecting membrane, then we have a build-up of the contaminant layer over the membrane surface. So just beside this membrane surface, we have the concentration is Cm just over the membrane surface. The concentration on the bulk is Cp. So the concentration in the bulk is C naught or the bulk surface concentration, and when the permeate comes through, on the permeate side the concentration of the contaminant or the protein for us will be Cp or the permeate side concentration. Okay. So now observed retention or percentage rejection is given like this, that it is actually the amount of protein that is being rejected by the membrane. So that if we have to create, so originally we have how much C naught, and finally how much it is permeating through the membrane, Cp. So this much concentration has been rejected by the membrane, and that if we divide it with C naught, then we get the rejection. So this in percentage will be given by this is basically for us, this observed retention is going to be 0.96 as per the problem statement. Okay. So 0.96 is the observed retention and C naught is the bulk concentration which is given by 4 kg per meter cube. So if now we put the values here, we will get that the Cp or the permeate concentration is equal to, if we solve this problem, this equation, we put the values, we will get Cp to be 0.16 kg per meter cube. So this is what the Cp or the permeate concentration will be given like. Now in order to get the flux, we also will be needing some other factors like K. So in order to get the K, we have some empirical relations which is very popular or very widely used in chemical engineering, and that empirical correlation is given in this problem statement itself. So using this empirical correlation, what we can determine is that this Reynolds number into Schmidt's number into dE by L. This basically Reynolds number is d into u naught rho dV by mu, okay, and mu by rho d is your Schmidt's number. So if you multiply them, the only term that remains for this is that, so Reynolds into Schmidt's number so Reynolds will be d into u into rho by mu into Schmidt's will be mu by rho into d. This d is the equivalent diameter and this d is the diffusivity for you. So they cannot cancel out, but this mu and this mu can cancel out, and this rho can cancel out for us. Okay. So if we have this analysis, then we can, and Sherwood number is, this Sherwood number has a definition like this. This Sherwood number is K into L by D, where this K is your mass transfer coefficient. Now if we put the expression of the Sherwood number and Schmidt's number here, we will get that our K is equal to 8.31 into 10 to the power minus 7 that 8.31 into 10 to the power minus 7 into L to the power minus 1 by 3 or L to the power 0.33. That will be your K, expression of K. Now if we put this value of K inside our film theory equation, the combining these two into this equation, so this is your equation number 1, this is your equation number 2. So if we combine equation 1 and 2, you will get that your J or your flux will be equal to 2.71 into 10 to the power minus 6 into L to the power minus 0.33. Okay. So this will be the value for J in our case. Now why we are interested to get the expression for J? Because in this problem statement they are telling that your filtration rate is 100 liter per day. Okay, 100 liter per day is the volumetric flow rate. Now 100 liter per day is the volumetric flow rate, and the area for us will be the width into L. So that will be, in this case, the width is given as 0.04 centimeter. So area is equal to 0.04. So I think the problem lies whenever we are trying to put a point here. So 0.04 into L, that will be your area. Now J into area is nothing but your volumetric flow rate. So given this, if we combine this equation 3 here, using equation 3, we will be able to solve for L, and that will be coming as around 35 meter. Okay. So for getting a solution of this situation, the length of the membrane that we need is around 35 meter. Okay. So this is practically this is one of the application of film theory or a typical chemical engineering fundamental problem from this. So where we can effectively determine that if this is your permeate concentration, this is your membrane surface concentration, then how much of the length that you require for this type of operation. Okay. So is there any question, any doubt from this problem statement or any situation? No? So let us consider or move to our next problem. In this next problem, we are going to use one famous equation called Darcy law. So how many of you are familiar with Darcy law? Come on, many of you I think. Yes. So you should be very familiar with Darcy law, and this Darcy law is practically very simple. It is practically giving you a relation between your flux and the the driving force that you are applying. Okay. So let us have a look into the problem statement. Here in this problem statement, we are also talking about the osmotic pressure. So what is a osmotic pressure? Whenever we are having a concentrated solution or a contaminant solution present in our solution, so they themselves exert a pressure which acts in the kind of a neutralizes or kind of acts in the opposite direction of your delta P. So that is our osmotic pressure. So this problem talks about that osmotic pressure in this case. It is a macromolecular solute which is basically protein ultrafiltered through a membrane at a fixed temperature. Solution concentration is 0.015 molar, 96% rejection is achieved. If the feed side pressure is 4 bar and the downstream pressure is 1.1 bar, calculate the effective driving force. So in the first problem, we are going to neglect the concentration polarization. In the second situation, there will be a polarization modulus of 5.5. So what is polarization modulus? Polarization modulus is nothing but the ratio of Cm and C naught. So the membrane surface concentration divided by the bulk concentration, that will be giving you the polarization modulus. Okay. So effective driving force, as I was telling that you have a delta P and your pi or osmotic pressure, this actually works in opposite direction of your delta P. So effective driving force will be delta P minus delta pi. Okay. Now what is delta P? Delta P is the pressure difference between the feed side and the permeate side. Now in the feed side, how much pressure we have? Feed side or the upstream side, 4 bar. In the downstream side, we have 1.1 bar. So the delta P in this case will be 2.9 bar. 2.9 bar. Okay. .9 bar will be the actually delta P. Now, in order to have a delta pi, in this case, what we need is that we need the osmotic pressure on the membrane side and we need the osmotic pressure on the permeate side also. Okay. So now for any solution which is very much dilute in nature, the pi or the osmotic pressure is given by one simple formula which is given by famous scientist called Van 't Hoff, that pi is nothing but R into T into C, where R is nothing but your ideal gas law. So given these equations, given these formulas applied, Van 't Hoff correlation, given that our delta pi we can calculate, pi m and pi p we can calculate, and the delta pi will be effectively given as, in this case, will be given as 0.323 bar. 0.323 bar. Okay. Now, for the first problem, when we do not have any concentration polarization, then Cm and C naught is same. So that's why we calculated delta M like this. And now, so effective pressure will be equal to 2.9 minus 0.3.2, that will be 2.58 bar. Okay. So basically that is the effective pressure, which is the difference between delta M and delta pi, delta P and delta pi. Now next part that they have asked is about when you have a concentration polarization. So in this case, when I have a concentration polarization, then that means that my Cm by C naught, that is equal to 5.5, and that will be giving me Cm to be equal to around 0.0825, okay, that will be my Cm value. Now given this Cm, my delta pi will be equal to RT into Cm minus Cp, okay, and if I put the values, I will get the delta pi to be 1.84 atmospheric pressure. 1.84 atmospheric pressure, that will be in my case delta pi. Okay. So if that is my delta pi, then what will be the effective pressure in this case? I will have 4 minus 1.84, and that will be equal to 1.06 atm. So practically in this situation, what you are seeing here is that when I have a concentration polarization, then the effective pressure for me, the effective driving force for me for this pressure filtration, it goes down very rapidly. Okay, it goes down very rapidly, and that's why when we are doing for desalination purpose or any highly concentrated protein solution we are giving, in that case this effective pressure, whatever pressure we are applying, but still we get a huge flux loss or reduction in the flux, because mainly because of this osmotic pressure which is acting in the opposite direction for this case. Okay. So this is about filtration of solutions in a very highly concentrated situation. Okay. Now I will slowly touch upon a gel layer control filtration. Okay. Now what is gel layer control filtration? In my lecture earlier today, I was talking to you about different fouling profile, different fouling regime. Okay. So one was the partial pore blocking. So pores, the walls of the pores are partially blocked, or the contaminant, the particles, they reside on the sides of the pores. Okay, that is partial pore blocking. So now if we have complete pore blocking, so on the membrane surface we will be seeing slowly that a layer of cake or gel will be formed. Okay. So in that case all the membrane surfaces is fully covered, so nothing of contaminant can come out from this membrane. Okay. So in that case what we will be seeing here is that my Cp, if we have a complete gel layer control filtration, the permeate concentration in this case will be equal to 0. So no permeate, nothing of contaminant comes out of the permeate, so Cp will be 0. Okay. Now whenever we have a gel layer control ultrafiltration, one particular thing we can also notice is that if we plot J on the y axis and delta P onto the x axis, that means if we measure the flux at different delta P or effective pressure value, we will see that at initial location it will be increasing. After certain time it will be very flat. Okay. So that means that after a certain value in my delta P, there will be no change in the J value. Okay. So this delta P will be called the limiting flux. This delta P will be called the limiting flux, limiting pressure. Okay. And this J that we get, that will be called the J limiting. Okay, limiting flux. All right. Now also the resistance that is offered by the gel layer, you can understand that whenever a solution is going through the membrane, now if there is a addition along in the gel layer, along with this membrane they have to cross the gel layer also. So the resistance offered by the membrane and the gel layer, that will be added up, okay, in this case. So in this particular specific situation, they are telling you that you have a gel layer controlling ultrafiltration. Specific gel layer resistance is given by some formula, alpha equal to alpha naught delta P to the power 0.3. Now what is specific gel layer resistance? Specific gel layer resistance is basically the resistance provided by unit mass of the membrane, unit mass of the gel layer. Okay. Now let us say that my gel layer has a thickness of L. Okay, gel layer has a thickness of L. And let us say that then per unit area, how much will be the volume? L only, 1 into L per unit area. How much will be the mass? Volume into density. So that will be given by rho g. Okay. So rho g into L, that is practically the mass of the pore, that mass of the gel layer that I have. Now here in this case, I have some porosity of the gel also. The gel layer is porous in nature. So effectively the mass goes down. So in this case, what I will have here, this is the porosity. If epsilon is the porosity, so effectively the mass will go down, and what fraction will be remaining after my void, that much if I multiply, I get the effective mass. Okay. Now effective mass is this much per unit area. Now resistance offered by unit of mass, if that is given by alpha g. Okay. So alpha is basically not alpha g, alpha naught. So alpha naught is basically the resistance offered by unit mass of your gel. So if I multiply all these terms together, I will get alpha, that will be given by this formula. Now this alpha g or whatever we call, this alpha is practically also dependent on, let us call this alpha g or specific gel layer resistance. This will be also given by one formula like a power law type formula, that is given by alpha naught into delta P to the power 0.3, that is given in this problem statement. In the problem statement, they are telling you that alpha is 2.56, alpha is equal to 2.56 into 10 to the power 16. So it is given that alpha is equal to alpha naught into delta P to the power 0.3, and the value for alpha naught is given. Fine. Now if we put all the values here, we will see that my Rg will be given in another power law formula. If we combine these two equations, we will get that Rg equal to Rg naught into delta P to the power 1.1. So now Rg is this much. Now Rg naught value I can calculate Rg naught, whatever will be the Rg naught value, this if I combine this, Rg naught will be practically given by this formula, that given by this expression, that Rg naught is equal to alpha naught into 1 minus epsilon g into rho g into L naught. That will be your Rg naught. Now once this is given, now as I was, so this is about actually the power law relation respected to when we are combining the alpha and your alpha and this when I am combining these two equations, this equation and this equation, so when I combine I get this equation. Fine. Now I was asking you about Darcy's law in the earlier problem statement. Now Darcy law I can give like this, delta P divided by what? Mu into Rm, that is for pure water filtration, okay, plus Rg so this is having a lot of issues Rm plus Rg, this is the resistance in series, so that's why we have Rm plus Rg in the denominator, okay. Now I have a relation between J and delta P. Now if I try to differentiate this delta P and at a particular delta P value, this dJ by d delta P, that value will be equal to 0 for us. So let us find out. So dJ by d delta P value at this particular location, J is not changing with delta P, J is not changing with delta P after this point. So dJ by d delta P, that will be equal to 0, okay, will be equal to 0 at limiting pressure. Okay. So now if I put this Rg value here, so from here I will put the Rg value here, and then if I do this differentiation, I will get the relation between Rm and Rg like this, that Rm is equal to 0.1 into Rg naught into delta P to the power 1.1. Okay, that will be my Rm. Now, so if I try to put these equations into the relations, then I will be getting that delta P value as like this, that delta P limiting will be equal to 10 into Rm by Rg naught to the power 1 over 1.1, and that will be giving you my delta P limiting to be equal to 8876 kPa. Okay. So basically the takeaway message from this situation is that whenever we have a gel layer control filtration, after a certain delta P value, it goes flat, the J does not increase anymore. So if we can get a relation between using the Darcy law between the J and delta P, and then we differentiate and put and we try to find out at which value the dJ by d delta P, that will be equal to 0. In that case, we will be ultimately landing up to that particular delta P value, and that will be 8876 kilopascal for this particular problem statement. Okay. So because of lack of time or because of very much sensitivity of this board, I am not writing too much of in-between steps in between. So, but I feel that many of you will be interested to know the in-between steps or the arithmetical steps, the algebraic steps in between. So, for that I will be very happy to discuss after the session that what will be the steps in between. Okay. So this is how we calculate for any gel layer controlling filtration what will be my delta P value beforehand. Okay. Here I have a problem which is particularly very much well applicable for many desalination plant. Okay, so desalination plant, what does it does? Basically, those places where there is very much lack of potable or drinkable water, we often have to rely on the sea water. But sea water, it has got a very high salinity content. Okay, normally, usually the salinity content of a sea water is over 30,000 ppm. Okay, milligram per liter, over that. Now, in order to have water to be drinkable, we have to reduce the salinity level below 250 ppm. Okay, or basically even 250 ppm can be tasting a little salty, but in this particular situation we are having a job where I have to reduce the salinity of your water from 30,000 to 250 ppm. Okay. Now this plant, they have told you have to set up a plant, and your flow rate throughput should be 1 meter cube per day. Okay. So 1 meter cube per day you are going to produce, and you are given a nanofiltration membrane. Linear permeability is given like this. So all of us know what is linear permeability, right, by now. So linear permeability is the slope of flux versus pressure. Okay. So that is a very basic property of a membrane, and it generally does not change until and unless we have a fouling in our membrane. Okay. Now reflection coefficient is given something. Reflection coefficient, I will come to it later. And delta pi, a relation of a correlation between a empirical correlation that is given, where C is in kg per meter cube. Applied pressure difference or delta P, that is 20 atmospheric pressure. Polarization modulus, what was the polarization modulus? Cm by C naught, right? So now the hollow fiber module, they have given you a nanofiltration hollow fiber membrane. Okay, now they just want to know that in a module, how many of fibers I should pack. So in yesterday, during the tutorial, I was showing you a hollow fiber cartridge. Any of you remember how many of hollow fibers was there in that cartridge? 80, very good. So 80 was there in particular cartridge. Now that was a lab scale setup, okay. But in industrial scale setup, we generally have much more than 80. The diameter of the module is much more than 80. Okay, so in this particular problem statement, this is a very possible situation in an industrial setup. Let us see how many number of fibers we need to have in a particular module, in this particular module, okay. So now they also have told that each fiber has a diameter of around 670 nanometer, which is very common when we have a industrial scale nanofiber setup, that they are inner diameter, they have around 600 to 700 nanometer. Okay, that is general criteria of this. So now they are asking you how many of hollow fibers do you need? Okay, anybody can tell me how to proceed with this problem statement? So now, okay, now let us have a little discussion over it. So how much of delta P we have been given? 20 atmospheric pressure, right? So 20 atmospheric pressure in kPa, how much is that? Anybody knows how much how many kilopascal in 1 atmospheric pressure? Come on, 101.325 kPa. Okay, so that is the 1 atmospheric pressure, 101.325 kPa. So delta P is 20 atmospheric pressure, so it is practically 2026.5 kPa. Okay, 20 atmospheric pressure. Now there is a relation for pi is given. Now effective pressure is what? We have seen that effective pressure is delta P minus delta pi. Okay. Sometimes some of the solutes which gets filtered through the membrane, they reflect back. It is like the reflection of light. Okay. So that's why sometimes we call the relation like this, that we know this J equal to LP into delta P minus delta pi. This is our famous Darcy's law also, we can say, where this LP we have seen in earlier problem, LP to be expressed in terms of 1 by mu over Rm, 1 by mu into Rm. Okay. So now if the reflection term is coming in picture, then this reflection coefficient of sigma will be multiplied with the pi, with the delta pi. Okay. So now applying this empirical correlation that is given in our problem segment, if we try to calculate the delta pi, then we will see that the value for delta pi is 230.721 kilopascal. That is our delta pi. Now we know the value of delta p, we know the value of sigma, we have the value for LP, we have the value for delta pi also. So now we can calculate the value for J to be equal to, if we put all the values, it will be, the value for J will be 3.91 into 10 to the power minus 5 to meter cube per meter square second. This will be the value for J for us. Now this is the flux. This is the flux. We also have the volumetric flow rate. Okay, we also have volumetric flow rate, and how to relate your volumetric flow rate with flux? Flux and volumetric flow rate. Basically, flux is nothing but volumetric flow rate divided by area. Okay, so flux into area I can get to get the volumetric flow rate. So area of any hollow fiber. So hollow fiber, if this is a hollow fiber for you, your water is going through the inner core of the membrane. Now the area is inner diameter into pi dl, inner perimeter into the length of the membrane. Okay. So the length of the membrane is given. So we will be needing this formula, J into A is equal to Q for you. So volumetric flow rate is equal to flux into area for you. Okay. Now you can imagine a hollow fiber to be a cylinder, like a pipe. Okay. So if I ask you what is the inner perimeter of that pipe, the PVC pipe, inner perimeter of the PVC pipe. If the inner diameter of that PVC pipe is D, okay, pi D will be the perimeter of that particular circle, pi into D into L, the length of that cylinder, will be giving you the area. Okay. So each fiber has pi into D into L, that much of area. So if I try to pack n number of fibers in a particular module, so the total area it will provide will be equal to, this A will be equal to n into pi into D into L. So this D is the inner diameter, L is the length, pi into D is the perimeter into length, that is giving me the area, multiplied by n or the number of fibers, that is giving me the area. And J I already have, Q I already have. So if I solve, if I put the values, I will get, by solving them, n to be 2825. So 2825. That many number, huge number of hollow fibers I need to pack in a particular module. Okay. Now what are options? It is very difficult to pack almost 3000 fibers in a module, right? What are the options that you can provide for them? You can divide them into different modules. You can have a parallel connection, like say that you can have, let us say you are able to pack around 400 fibers in a particular module. Okay. Your water is flowing, you just try to divide it into 7 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 parts. Each part has 400, one part has extra 25. So then that will be 700, 700, 700, 700. So like this you will have total two, I told that, so that many number of fibers you can divide them into a parallel connection. So either you can have a parallel connection, but if you provide to do it in a series connection, then again each and every time your CM and CP value will change and you will have to calculate the number of fibers required more for the kind of situations. Okay. So for this kind of problem, it is usual or it is advisable to try to have a parallel connection to this. Okay. So these are some of the situations that we might face for predicting the flux. There are various models for batch flow filtration or cross flow filtration. There are various models applicable for this, and so I just wanted to give you a brief idea, a very brief idea, that how these calculations are done or how these designs are done in basic chemical engineering subjects. So these are some choices or some equations that we might be applying. So one equation that we have talked about was film theory, another was your Darcy law, another was the how to calculate the gel layer control ultrafiltration, and then we saw about how to get the reflection coefficient applied in your filtration setup. Okay, so how to calculate the number of fibers in your system. So there are many such possible variations, many such applicable equations in these type of situations, and if I try to explain all of them to you, I will need a one more Gyan course. Okay, so it is just a summary of what I wanted to give you a brief test of how do we do for this kind of situation. Okay, I am sure that if you think you will have a little more questions, but if you have any question now, I'll be very happy to answer. No questions? Okay, so then if you do not have any, you are free to ask later also. It's not that you have to have now. Later also you can ask. So only just a small announcement that tomorrow we will have the evaluation. Okay, so tomorrow we will have the evaluation for whatever topic we have been covering, the basic concepts or basic whatever have been done, not too much details. Try to go through the slides that have been already been shared with you through the Google Drive. Okay. Now you have to appear for this test and you will be evaluated. Okay. Now you will be given a grade, just like a CGPA that you get in your college exam, just like that. This over 90 it is EX grade, over 80 this is A grade, like this. Now one thing you can use for this certificate that you will be getting, you can use this grade is for this is equivalent to a 1 credit course. 1 week Gyan course is equivalent to a 1 credit course. Okay. So if you want to use this certificate for later in your life, say that you want to go for a PhD or any higher studies where 1 credit will be useful or applicable for you, you can use this or cite this. Okay. That is one part, and second part is it is mandatory for everyone to appear for this exam. Okay, and so those whoever has access to laptop, please do or attend this evaluation or quiz over laptop or any other system. If you do not have, just let us know. We will try to arrange a printout or a hard copy for you for the quiz or the evaluation. Okay, quiz will be just MCQ. Okay. MCQ, very basic question, just a multiple choice answer, one choice among four questions. Okay, but you be prepared and go through the slides that we have shared all the slides till today in the Google Drive by now. So go through those slides, and expected that our offline exams will start around 2 p.m. Okay, or maybe if we have a slight change in schedule, we'll announce it to that. Okay. So, but everyone, please ensure online participants will have an option to go for, will have to go through Google form only, but for offline participants, you have this option. Okay. So, thank you all of you for joining us today, and we will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thank you.